Revealed, Millionaire discovers cleaning lady's touching secret for her cancer-stricken daughter. Alex Reynolds leaned back in his sleek leather chair, the shimmering skyline of Manhattan sprawling outside his window. He was a self-made millionaire at 38, a titan of tech entrepreneurship, yet here he was, feeling more detached than ever. Every accolade on the wall, every dollar in his bank account felt like a hollow victory. His life was a carousel of meetings and presentations, yet behind the polished facade lay an emptiness that gnawed at him like a relentless predator. What was the point of this success if it left him so utterly alone? In the hustle and clamor of Manhattan, the only life he felt was in the disconnect from his former self, the kid with fire in his eyes and hope in his heart. As his thoughts wandered, he caught a glimpse of Maria, the cleaning lady in the building. She was made from a different fabric, her grit evident as she juggled her duties with an infectious smile. Maria worked with purpose, chasing after her dreams with relentless determination, particularly for her young daughter Sophia, who was valiantly fighting cancer. The casual conversations they exchanged felt warm, but there was a chasm between their lives that Alex could barely comprehend. Every day, he found himself entranced by her quiet strength, her ability to smile even in the face of adversity. He admired those who could put others first, but he doubted he could bear the weight of such selflessness. It felt foreign in his world of numbers and profit margins. Then came the day everything shifted. Sophia's treatment had been denied. As Maria's world crumbled, Alex could almost feel the tremors through the glass. Panic clawed at her features as she relayed the news, and he was left reeling. Could he really help her? The part of him that craved connection wanted to rush in and offer whatever he could muster. But the other part, the calculated businessman, warned him of the complexities of pride and dependence. His instinct screamed at him to act, yet an invisible barrier held him back. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Despite his intentions, when he offered financial assistance, Maria recoiled. Her fierce independence ignited a spark of conflict. To her, his gesture felt like a stamp of ownership on her life. She wanted to claw back her dignity, yet the stakes were rising. Their conversations escalated into fierce debates, painful revelations surfacing like tide against the shore. He wrestled with the fear that his status would forever separate them, while Maria seemed to embody a resilience he worried he had lost in his climb to the top. It all came to a head one day when Maria unveiled her secret talent, the ability to paint, brightly colored canvases filled with emotion that told her and Sophia's story. For Alex, this was raw, a reminder that life is not confined to the sterile walls of boardrooms. As he stood before her artwork, he felt his understanding shift. But would he let go of control to embrace this newfound connection, or would he risk losing her entirely? The tug-of-war between their worlds tightened like a noose. Their fates intertwined, leaving both with the lurking question, could they truly break down the walls that separated them before it was too late? The moment stretched like a taut elastic band, suspended in tension between unspoken words and the weight of vulnerability. Alex stared at the vibrant brushstrokes, colors dancing with life and anguish, so strikingly contrasted against his gray world of corporate monotony. He found himself questioning his path, wondering how the generous ambition he once had morphed into the cold calculus of success. Faced with this vivid introduction to Maria's authentic self, Alex wrestled with an internal turmoil he hadn't felt in years. The fight within him raged: stay comfortable and uninvolved, or plunge into the chaotic mess of emotions that came with caring for someone else. The latter felt exhilaratingly frightening, and each breath reminded him of the stakes. His heart raced at the thought of truly connecting with Maria but faltered at the edge of commitment. As days passed, Alex noticed that the skyline he once found mesmerizing began to feel disorienting. He went through his usual cycle of investors and projections, but his mind drifted elsewhere. Every business deal grew stale, and glossy presentations couldn't fill the void left by his encounters with Maria. Their disagreements about pride and autonomy circled in his thoughts like vultures waiting for a misstep. He reached for his phone, the familiar glow illuminating a decision weighed down by consequences. Then, as if the world had conspired for clarity, a thought struck him: what if he organized an art exhibit for Maria? A chance to showcase her talent and declare her autonomy on her own terms, while also providing a potential financial lifeline for her daughter's treatments. The idea blossomed like one of her paintings, rich and full of possibilities. Yet, with it came the fear of rejection. His heart raced again, this time for different reasons. Would she see this as an act of patronization, as an extension of his wealth encroaching on her dignity? Or, perhaps, she would consider it a genuine attempt to support her dreams. The safety of his office felt stifling now, pushing him to confront Maria directly. He decided on a Saturday morning to find her. He could see the tension painted on her features, the weariness that came with endless worry and heartache. He approached slowly, intent on initiating a conversation that could either deepen their connection or shatter it entirely. "Maria," he began, his voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling within him. "I've been thinking about your art. It's incredible, and I have an idea I'd like to share." Her eyes narrowed, suspicion mingled with curiosity. "An idea?" Alex swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt. "What if we host an exhibit? A way to share your work and maybe earn funds for Sophia's treatment." The silence stretched unbearable, her gaze piercing into him for what felt like an eternity. He could almost see the gears in her mind turning, weighing his sincerity against her instinct for self-reliance. "No," she finally stated, her voice firm but tinged with sorrow. "I'm not. I can't just sell for charity or whatever you're thinking. That's not what I need." Her rejection landed like a slap, filling the air between them with unresolved tension. A part of him pulled back, wanting to retreat into familiarity and offer self-justifications. Yet, another part, a quieter, stronger part, urged him to stand his ground. As they locked eyes, he realized that this moment of conflict was not simply about the exhibit. It was about understanding the delicate fabric of their lives, how he needed her lessons of vulnerability and strength, just as much as she might need his resources. "Then tell me what you need, Maria," he pressed, driven by a sudden urge to connect, to truly understand. For the first time, he saw the armor crack slightly, her bravado flickering like an unsteady flame. "I need you to trust me," she replied, her voice quaking but resolute. He nodded, feeling the gravity of her words. It was evident that trust, for both of them, would become an essential component of their tangled journey ahead. In the depths of their shared silence, Alex felt a revelation unfurl within him. Perhaps what he had always chased as success wasn't wealth or status, but genuine connection. A chance to reclaim the richness of life that he had lost, yet, just as hope began to foster, a call from his assistant interrupted. He glanced at his phone, the familiar name instantly tethering him back to the corporate world ready to pull him away. The moment of clarity collided with urgency, leaving him at a crossroads. Would he return to the safety of his established routine, or daringly continue chasing the unknown, navigating through the labyrinth of vulnerability and deep connection? Then, as soon as the call ended, he turned back to Maria, ready to face whatever might ignite next in their intertwined fates. Whatever lay ahead, he couldn't deny it would demand more from him than he ever expected. Yet, as Maria examined him with a blend of caution and curiosity, Alex couldn't shake the thought, the time had come to face what being truly rich meant. He couldn't shake the nagging discomfort that settled in his gut. The moments with Maria were an awakening, but returning to the sterile confines of the office felt like slipping back into a cocoon he desperately wanted to break free from. As the office's polished floors loomed ahead, a dramatic contrast to the raw authenticity he experienced with her, Alex wrestled with the fight to redefine his purpose that he stepped away from the familiar glass walls of his lofty office, roaming the streets that mirrored the chaotic war within himself. The bustle of businessmen and women hurried past him, caught in their own endless cycle of achievement chasing. He glanced into the windows of various establishments, each reflecting countless ambitions but lacking something vital, the kind of human connection that fueled life. Quickened breaths propelled him forward, urging him toward an unfamiliar destination. He recalled Maria's words, the quiet authority woven into her plea for trust, and sensed the need for those revelations to take root in a tangible way. As he walked, the city's vibrant energy served as a canvas, each corner filled with color, something he hadn't fully appreciated until now. His feet led him to a small cafe nestled between towering buildings. The sign overhead read, "Artisan Brew," an invitation into an oasis he had previously overlooked. The scent of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air, mingling with his thoughts as he perched at a corner table by the window. The barista, a young man with a patient smile, caught his eye. "What can I get you?" he asked cheerfully. "Espresso." "Make it strong," Alex replied, his voice barely concealing the uncertainty bubbling beneath the surface. As he sat pondering his next steps, ambition flickered in the depths of his thoughts. The failure with Maria had left a mark, but it also ignited a determination that simmered just beneath the surface. He knew the potential of her art, not just as a means of income but as a vehicle for her voice, her identity. Yet, to suggest it again would require a leap of faith, genuine collaboration, an understanding of what she deemed essential. The barista returned, setting the steaming cup before him. "You look deep in thought," he observed, a hint of curiosity in his voice. Alex smiled faintly, appreciating the momentary human connection. "Trying to figure out how to help someone without making it worse," he admitted. In the act of vulnerability, a profound realization washed over him. It dawned on him that every successful business deal he had ever made was transactional, yet, the real growth, personal and professional, lay in relationships rooted in trust and empathy. He couldn't approach this situation like a negotiation. It required him to embrace uncertainty, to lay himself bare. He pulled out his notebook, the pages crisp, filled with a mixture of abstract thoughts and business strategies. But today held a different energy. He began jotting down a plan, not just for an exhibit, but a collaborative project that allowed Maria the space to breathe and create on her own terms, empowering her rather than leading her. With each sentence he constructed, clarity emerged. He envisioned an open space, without the heavy weight of charity, giving her complete control over the narrative while ensuring her art sparkled against the backdrop of their commissioned project. This could be the bridge, her talent shining without altered motives. The very least he could do was step back and encourage her to redefine her own success. As he closed the notebook, a smile crept onto his face. The shift he felt was nothing short of revolutionary. In possibly stepping into uncharted territory with her, he began to grasp the essence of vulnerability that came with true connections. But just as optimism surged inside him, a shadow loomed. What if she still resisted? What if he returned, only to face rejection once more? Doubt whispered along the edges of his newfound clarity, but then he remembered Maria's resolute command, "Trust." The decision solidified within him. He would return, not as a benefactor burdened by guilt but as a collaborator seeking equality in their shared journey. Beneath the urgency of newfound purpose, Alex's mind danced with anticipation, all while remaining fully aware that the road ahead wound precariously. Standing, he took one last sip of coffee casually, his heart racing with a blend of determination and fear. As he exited the cafe and stepped back onto the bustling street, he had no idea what awaited him in his next confrontation with Maria. Would she meet him with an open heart or a barricade of skepticism? The uncertainty loomed large, an exhilarating cocktail of threat and possibility swirling around him. It was time to face the truth of their intertwined journeys. What awaited him was not just a connection born of trust, but a confrontation with his own understanding of sacrifice and support. He prepared himself mentally as he walked towards her studio, knowing that within this delicate balance lay the potential for transformation, for both of them. Before he opened the door, a single thought crystallized: this wouldn't just be another day of impact, this would forge a new pathway woven with the threads of trust and vulnerability. And as he lifted his hand, he felt the gravity of the moment. It was then he realized this wouldn't just be a struggle for Maria's trust, it would ultimately be a reckoning for his own. The door creaked slightly as Alex pushed it open, a sound that felt far more significant than the mere squeak of hinges. The studio was a world apart from the bustling streets. Walls adorned with vivid splashes of color and canvases in various stages of completion told a story of rebirth and resilience. Everything in the space breathed art, and yet, within the chaos of creation, he sensed a hidden fragility in the air. Maria stood at the easel, brush in hand, focused intently on the canvas before her. The moment she caught sight of him, her expression transformed from concentration to something else: hesitation. Recognition. He couldn't tell. The air thickened with unspoken words and unresolved emotions as they faced each other. Alex, she finally acknowledged, her voice steady, yet betraying a flicker of vulnerability. I've been thinking about our last conversation, he said, forcing himself to maintain eye contact, feeling the weight of both his intentions and her skepticism. A guarded expression crossed her face. And what conclusions have you drawn? Her question struck a nerve, and he felt a rush of urgency to articulate the ideas swirling in his mind. He hadn't come here to negotiate, he had come to propose collaboration, a partnership born from mutual understanding rather than obligation. I want to support you, Maria, but I don't want to dictate your process. You deserve ownership of your art. The silence that followed his statement stung with tension. She set down her paintbrush. Ownership? How do you even know what that means for me? The fire in her voice ignited something deep within him, a realization of how loaded the word support had become between them. I want to help. I believe in your talent, he gestured to the vibrant colors surrounding them, but I don't want to come from a place of privilege that assumes I know better. You're the artist here. Her features softened slightly, but skepticism remained. And what makes you think this isn't just another business attempt, another way to fill your pockets? Her words rang with truth, and he felt a wave of discomfort wash over him. The transactions of his past appeared naked before him, and he couldn't deny the reality she painted. Because I want to learn. This isn't about profits for me, it's about giving you room to tell your story authentically. For a moment, the air crackled with possibility, a kind of understanding that bridged their differences, yet the doubt still lingered in her eyes. Alex wrestled with the vulnerability of laying himself bare, and yet, what kind of assurance could he offer that wouldn't sound hollow? I can't prove my intentions right now. Maybe it's a risk for both of us. All I can give is my commitment to be an ally. Maria turned back to her canvas, her posture both introspective and defensive. And if I fail? If you find my art isn't worth your time? Fear gripped him. The risk of failure is inherent in this. But if we approach it together, maybe it won't feel so heavy. Maybe we can redefine success based on what it means to you. He sensed her deliberation, the tumult of emotions within her. As she stirred, glancing at the canvases that adorned the studio, he could see the conflict etched in her features: fear of rejection clashing with a longing for validation. What if I say yes? What if I'm open to this? She finally ventured, her voice almost a whisper. Then we create something together, he replied, a glimmer of hope igniting within him. A space where your vision is solely yours, but one where I can offer support however necessary without encroaching on your voice. For a moment, they locked eyes, and in that instant, both recognized the enormity of their crossroads. This wasn't just about art, it was about redefining their identities individually and collectively. Then let us see if you can handle it, she said, a subtle blend of challenge and invitation in her tone, the barriers slowly softening. But as he smiled, an undercurrent of anxiety emerged. What if his understanding of support wasn't enough? The shadows of doubt loomed, whispering that their collaboration could unravel into chaos. Alex's heart beat heavily in his chest, aware this fragile agreement teetered on the edge of revelation, a precipice that could either elevate them both or lead to an unceremonious plummet. The moment hung suspended, charged with the possibilities of transformation. Before the silence became stifling, he had to ask the next essential question: what do you need from me to trust this process? And just like that, the promise of their journey stood at the threshold, trembling with tension and the weight of uncharted potential. As he awaited her answer, he understood they weren't just confronting their fears. They were daring to forge a partnership amidst the chaos, a bolder step than either dared reckon. Would the next words Maria spoke lead them toward liberation or further entrench them in uncertainty? Hands trembled as Alex prepared to catch the fragile thread of trust between them. Maria hesitated, her gaze slipping from Alex to the vibrant strokes of color on the canvas that seemed to echo the clash of emotions between them. A moment pressed between them like the stillness before a storm, and Alex felt the weight of her uncertainty. "I need time," she finally confessed, her voice a mixture of vulnerability and defiance. "Time to figure out what I really want. You talk about ownership, but do I even know what that means for me?" Her admission stirred something within Alex, a realization that her journey was as much about self-discovery as it was about their collaborative effort. "Then let us take time. Let us explore this together, to find what ownership means to you." Maria regarded him with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "It's not just about what I want, Alex. It's also about what it takes to bring my vision to life. Can you really handle the mess that comes with it?" Uncertain, he bravely replied, "Life is messy. I'd rather be part of the chaos than stand aside and watch." Each word was an echo of the conviction swelling inside him, a firm belief that this partnership could bring them both to a place they had yet to imagine. "What if it consumes you?" Her voice was steady now, imbued with a challenge that sent a ripple of anxiety through him that he fought the urge to retreat. "Then we'll face the fire together." In that electric silence, laden with potential, Maria seemed to weigh his promise. Finally, she nodded slightly, the corner of her lips twitching in hesitant acceptance. "All right. But you'll need to commit fully. If we're doing this, you should know that the emotional toll can be significant." The path had become clear yet daunting. "I'm ready for that. Just tell me what it looks like." Maria's eyes softened, and for the first time, he felt a hint of warmth behind the carefully constructed wall she had placed around herself. "Then we start with something small. I'll show you how I work, but you must promise not to interfere. You're here to observe." "I can do that." "Good. You'll need to be patient. I'll have moments when inspiration strikes and others when I'll feel completely lost. That's part of art, part of me. If you can embrace that, we might just make something worthwhile." With each exchange, Alex felt aspects of his own identity unfolding. This conversation was revealing his capacity for understanding and adaptability, skills he hadn't fully recognized as his own. The art of listening was as critical as the art of creation, and he found himself eager to develop both. "What if I falter? What if I'm unable to keep my distance?" he asked suddenly, the weight of vulnerability creeping back into his voice. "Then we'll figure it out," she responded, her tone surprisingly comforting. "Just be honest. If you find it too difficult to remain in the background, say so. But know that I need this time for myself." He nodded, captivated by the unfolding dynamic. Every word stretched his notions of collaboration and personal growth, each question pushing the boundaries of his comfort zone. As they stepped closer to a shared endeavor, Alex's ambition began to shift. The desire to mold the project to his vision transformed into a commitment to amplify Maria's voice, to cherish the authenticity of her expression. "I have to admit," he ventured, his heart racing as he tested the waters of their new partnership, "I'm looking forward to this more than I thought possible. It feels like stepping into uncharted territory." "Don't get ahead of yourself," she cautioned, a playful fire returning to her eyes. "There's a long way to go." With those words, Alex felt the tilt of their journey change. The anticipation both thrilled and terrified him, setting the stage for a profound exploration of creativity, identity, and trust. "Let us begin," Maria declared, motioning to the canvases scattered around the studio. As minutes turned into hours, doubts swirled in the back of his mind, taunting him with what-ifs and maybes. Would he truly be able to step back and just support her? Could he navigate the emotional labyrinth she hinted at without losing himself? The brushes danced, and each stroke became a piece of their intertwined fate, a canvas upon which he realized he was just as much an artist in his own right, not with paint or canvas but in the way he approached life, relationships, and the unknown. As they delved deeper into the creative process, the tension between fear and aspiration mounted. Would this partnership bind them tightly, or would it unleash chaos that they weren't prepared to face? The questions lingered as they withdrew into the reverberating silence of the studio, a sacred space of discovery that urged them to confront the true cost of their aspirations, laying the groundwork for challenges yet to come. What hidden depths would they uncover as they pushed the limits of trust and creativity? The studio buzzed with tentative energy, a mixture of anticipation and vulnerability. As Alex stood by, watching Maria's hands glide over the canvas, each stroke revealed not just her artistic intent, but also fragments of her emotional landscape. He had never realized how profoundly the act of creation could mirror internal conflicts. The swirling pigment spoke a language he barely understood, and yet he was captivated. "Alex," Maria's voice broke through his contemplation, her brows slightly furrowed. "What do you see?" He hesitated, taken aback by the question. I see bold colors, a lot of energy," he stumbled, unsure of whether to interpret her work or find deeper meaning in it. She chuckled softly, a sound both refreshing and disarming. "Energy can mean many things. But are you seeing any of my struggle?" Her inquiry plunged him into introspection. Did he really understand her vision, or was he only scratching the surface? I see that you're expressing something chaotic, something you want to bring to order," he finally said, brave enough to offer his perception. Maria paused, her gaze locking onto his. "Good. Chaos is part of the process, but so is clarity. As we go along, it's important that you embrace both. Just as much as I'm working on this painting, you'll be working on understanding the layers beneath it." With each session, Alex felt his own layers shedding. He began observing not just Maria's techniques, but also her emotional fluctuations. Moments of pure inspiration surged through her, bursting into laughter as waves came crashing down when frustration seeped in. It was beautiful and unsettling. "Why does it feel like I'm trapped in a circle?" he asked one day after a particularly fraught session that had ended in silence. "We've talked about embracing the chaos, yet I feel less capable of contributing each day." "You're not meant to contribute in the same way I do," Maria replied, her tone gentle. "Your role here is to help me navigate the obstacles. It's about finding a balance." Her words struck a chord deep within him. Alex realized that he was not just here to support her, a revelation that kindled his desire for personal growth. The walls he had built around his own creativity, his own reluctance to embrace failure, began to crack. Perhaps to really own this journey, he needed to accept that imperfection was also part of artistic expression. Encouraged by this understanding, Alex began to document his observations. He jotted down thoughts during breaks, noting how Maria handled her creative blocks or how certain colors evoked emotions he had never named. This act of reflection served as both a record and a way to translate their experiences into something tangible, yet beneath the surface, another apprehension brewed. Could he truly maintain the boundaries between observing and participating? While he was discovering latent strengths, the easy transition into a supportive role remained a challenge. One afternoon, as they shared a break, he decided to voice these concerns. "Maria, I've noticed that as I'm getting more engaged, my fear of disrupting your process is growing. I am interested in contributing, yet the prospect of overstepping looms over me." She regarded him, sensing the weight of his struggle. "Art isn't about rigidity, it's about connection. If something strikes you, speak up. A collaboration only flourishes when both partners feel free to express themselves. That freedom comes with listening as much as it does with experimenting." Her words sent an electric pulse through him, challenging him to redefine his boundaries. Did he have the courage to step into the unknown, to venture beyond the safety of observation? This partnership was unraveling hidden potential within him, yet also revealing insecurities he had taken for granted. As they resumed work, Alex felt a stirring inside him, a flicker of boldness coupled with apprehension. He wanted to contribute to this creative journey, but what if it edged into interference? Just as those thoughts swirled, a spark of inspiration hit him. What if he started experimenting on his own? Perhaps finding his own voice would help Maria in ways he hadn't yet imagined. But could he navigate the fear of failure that gnawed at his core? In that moment, the studio felt heavy with questions and possibilities, as if an unseen force were pulling them toward an incalculable fate. With fresh determination coursing through him, he took up a brush for the first time, testing the waters in a realm that felt both exhilarating and perilous. But as he began to paint, another revelation struck him: this wasn't merely a quest for artistic expression. It was a confrontation with the very essence of who he was. And within that revelation lay a new question: what would it take for him to embrace this new facet of himself? Ignited by the uncertainty but warmed by possibility, Alex dove deeper into the canvas, ready to discover what lessons awaited him just beyond the edge of fear. As the brush hesitated above the canvas, Alex's heart raced with the rush of unfamiliar adrenaline. The weighted silence of the studio became a sounding board for his doubts. He blinked at the canvas, waiting for inspiration to strike, yet the colors before him remained mockingly blank. Was it enough to merely mimic what Maria created? Taking a deep breath, Alex dipped the brush into a vibrant hue. He recalled Maria's words about chaos and clarity, and with a firm stroke, allowed his instincts to take control. One line led to another, and soon vibrant arcs of color began to swirl across the canvas, revealing a landscape of emotion that felt simultaneously foreign yet familiar. It was quickly becoming a chaotic representation of his own turbulence, an abstract whirlwind that mirrored his own internal struggles, but as he painted, nagging self-doubt crept in. What if Maria looked at his work and saw nothing but an amateur's clumsy attempt? What if he was simply embarrassing himself? With each stroke, the burgeoning anxiety was palpable. Striking colors began to blur together as uncertainty clawed at his mind. "Alex, that looks interesting." Maria's voice broke through the maelstrom of fortitude and fear. She stepped closer, her eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity. "Tell me what you're feeling as you create that." The warmth of her words momentarily eased his embarrassment, replaced by a swelling desire to articulate what lay beneath his strokes. "I feel lost," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "Like I'm trying to find my place, but I'm scared it'll just turn into a mess." Maria smiled, her presence steadying him. "Good. A mess is where the real art begins. You are exploring your emotions and confronting what you've kept buried. Embrace that." With those words, a subtle pressure lifted from his chest. Somehow, the validation transformed his fear into fuel. Once again, Alex turned back to the canvas. This time, he didn't overthink. He grabbed the brush and painted wildly, allowing his emotions to ebb and flow across the surface. Each stroke felt liberating, a testament to a burgeoning independence he hadn't realized he craved. But the deeper he dug into his tumultuous feelings, the more his exhilaration transformed into dread. A stark memory surfaced: his mother's battle with illness, the helplessness that engulfed him during those dark days. The relentless ache of nostalgia collided with the energy swirling in his brush. In an impulsive burst, he quickly crafted sharp lines alongside softer swathes of color, aiming to reconcile the chaos of pain with flashes of warmth and hope. "Great catharsis, right?" Maria remarked as she watched him, her eyes radiating excitement and understanding. "It's hard to confront our past, but by channeling it into your art, you reclaim that narrative. That's powerful." Her supportive gaze ignited a realization. This process wasn't merely about painting, it was about excavating unaddressed emotions and wearing them like colors on a canvas. That thought lifted a weight from his shoulders but implanted another question that lingered in the back of his mind: was he ready to share these newfound vulnerabilities with Maria? Determined to find out, Alex made a sudden decision. "Can we talk about the colors I chose? Each one means something, a reflection of my experiences." As they embarked on a deep conversation about the significance behind his choices, Alex realized he was inching closer to the very fears that had haunted him. He contemplated the blurred lines between his artistic expression and personal experience. What would happen if he genuinely placed his reality on display? Infused with newfound courage, he looked at Maria and spoke with raw honesty. "What if this painting doesn't resonate? What if the truth behind it is too heavy? He braced for her response. She met his gaze unflinchingly. Then it's your truth. And that's enough. Her unwavering support ignited something within him as thoughts cascaded into clarity. Every brushstroke became an exploration, an acceptance of imperfection entwined with authenticity. It was no longer about simply creating art, it was a journey through the labyrinth of his own psyche, but just as the horizon started to clear, an unsettling thought nagged at the edges of his mind. Was this personal exploration worth the risk of vulnerability? Suddenly, the door swung open, jarring his concentration. A voice wafted in, crackling with displeasure. You call this art? The sneer rolled off the intruder's tongue like an icy chill. This is the work of a pretender. As Alex's heart raced at the unexpected confrontation, he felt the air grow tense with an ominous weight. Was he ready to defend what he had created against those who might not understand? A confrontation loomed, forcing him to question, how much would he fight for his truth? And just as he opened his mouth to respond, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. The intruder remained in the doorway, a shadow against the bright light of the studio, the derision in his voice slicing through Alex's newfound clarity. It was as if the air turned dense, each second stretching into an agonizing silence that suffocated any words about to escape. Who are you to question my work? Alex finally managed to say, the tremor in his voice revealing the fragility of his resolve. The man stepped deeper into the room, his demeanor radiating arrogance, arms folded across his chest in a dismissive barrier. I'm someone who appreciates real talent, he retorted. This? He gestured toward the canvas overflowing with chaotic strokes and unexpected harmonies, his lips curling into a smirk. It lacks any sense of skill or passion. Just a collection of color splatters, a cry for attention, maybe? Infuriation surged through Alex, hot and consuming. How could someone dismiss something so personal, so raw? The memories and emotions, intertwined with every brushstroke, felt belittled under the weight of the stranger's criticism. Yet, beneath the anger festered a fear. All the insecurities he had battled throughout his life rushed back. Maria stepped forward, her normally unwavering support now battling against her discomfort. Art isn't about perfection, it's about expression, she defended quietly, but the intruder waved her off. You think this pretender knows anything about true artistry? Look at him, he's attempting to mask insecurity with color. Each insult piled upon him, constructing a fortress of doubt around his freshly unearthed confidence. Alex's thoughts whirled, grappling with his impulse to retaliate or retreat. Who was this man to strip away his attempt at authenticity? Perhaps he was right, a pretense of skill could easily be disguised among vibrant splatters, but Maria's earlier words of encouragement echoed in his head. Embrace the mess. Taking a grounding breath, Alex focused on the canvas, transfixed by the stark contrast between the bright chaos he had created and the cool cynicism that enveloped him. Art is not simply technical, it's about feeling, he spoke, his voice steadying. It's about sharing a part of myself. And whether you understand it or not, that is valid. The man raised a brow, clearly unimpressed, but Alex noticed a flicker of surprise in his eyes. The tension in the room shifted slightly, the atmosphere laden with unresolved energy, both a challenge and a revelation painting themselves in the space between them. Why are you so intent on tearing it down? Alex pressed, feeling emboldened by his own voice. Do you fear vulnerability? Does it shake your idea of what art should be? Because for me, it's reclaiming pain. It's about moving from uncertainty to expression, a journey of growth. For a brief moment, Alex felt powerful, owning the ground beneath his feet. A whisper of self-belief surged through, challenging him further. Could he articulate the truth he barely grasped himself? Just as Alex anticipated a response, a deep silence enveloped them. The intruder's arrogance faltered, and tension hung heavy. Maria's gaze shifted from Alex to the man, as if gauging the outcome of the verbal skirmish. In that suspended moment, Alex mused over the perceived stakes. Was this man merely a catalyst to confront his deeper fears of inadequacy? Look, kid, the intruder finally replied, albeit with less conviction, not everyone will embrace your journey. Some will tear it apart. He turned, preparing to leave, a smirk once more creeping onto his face. But if you truly believe in this, good luck. As the door slammed shut, leaving an echoing silence, Alex felt his heart race with a flurry of conflicting emotions. Relief ebbed away at the confrontation's tension, but alongside it lay an unsettling realization. Had he actually stood firm, engaged the man, or was it merely bluster in a moment of self-doubt? "Are you all right?" Maria's voice broke through the tumult of his thoughts, filled with concern. I think I am," Alex replied, surprised by the honesty in his voice. "But maybe it's not about whether he gets it." Maria smiled, clarity returning to her features. "Exactly. It's about you finding your voice." With renewed determination, Alex returned to the canvas, grappling with the stirring emotions within and the weight of authenticity he now sought. He knew this journey would be fraught with challenges and contrasts, but in that moment, he recognized his progress. And as he dipped his brush back into the paint, the realization began to crystallize: he would fight fiercely for this truth, even if it meant facing the judgment of others. What if this was just the beginning of a much larger battle for acceptance and creativity? Among colors, chaos, and confrontation, he sensed the potential for deeper revelations yet to come. But underneath the exhilaration a new worry began to thrum: how many voices would he confront before he could ultimately find himself? Alex stood before his canvas, the vibrant colors swirling like a tempest within him. The confrontation with the intruder had not only rattled him but also awakened a fierce determination. Each brushstroke felt like an act of rebellion against the dismissive judgment he had endured. The air still thrummed with the remnants of that confrontation, both empowering and unsettling, as he sought to tap into his own authenticity. In the silence that stretched around him, Alex moved his brush deliberately, capturing the realities of his emotions. With each movement, he was no longer merely blending paint, he was intertwining his narrative, the struggles, the triumphs, and the mere act of articulating his journey. There was a rawness to the rhythm of his strokes, a cadence that was both chaotic and beautiful, mirroring the internal landscape he was navigating, but doubt still clawed at the edges of his resolve. As he layered colors, the voice of the intruder echoed in his mind, a toxic whisper suggesting that perhaps his work was nothing more than a facade, a shallow expression devoid of true artistry. Was he merely an imposter pretending to create art? In the midst of this turmoil, he recalled how Maria had defended him. Her words had softened the sharp edges of his self-doubt, but there was an unshakable truth in the intruder's taunting: many would never understand the rawness of his expression. He grappled with that reality, wondering if he needed to cater to the crowd or remain true to himself. A sudden burst of inspiration struck as the concept of resilience crystallized in his mind. He grabbed a bold shade of red and let it flow across the canvas, a visceral representation of his heart, scarred yet vibrant. It dawned on him that the act of creating was itself an act of vulnerability and bravery. He could frame the intruder's criticism not as an indictment but as a motivator, an impetus to push further into uncharted territories of his creative self. If art could crystallize feelings impossible to verbalize, perhaps he should embrace that chaos and vulnerability as his strengths rather than weaknesses. With newfound clarity, Alex expanded his movements, feeding off the frenzied energy of the room. The paint began to spill and splash, forming edges that intertwined, creating a harmony within their discord. In those moments, he felt as if he were gaining ownership over his narrative, each color a stepping stone, each brushstroke a declaration of his existence, yet, that same inner turmoil refused to fade completely. As liberating as expressing oneself could be, the question lingered: how much of his truth was he willing to lay bare before the inevitable scrutiny of the world? Would exposing his vulnerabilities leave him more exposed, more susceptible to the barbs of judgment? He painted with urgency, feverishly accepting and confronting the tumult within. As the shape of the piece emerged, Alex could see the frail patterns of his struggles interwoven with bursts of exuberance. He couldn't tone down the messiness of his emotions, nor did he want to. It felt as if the act itself was a direct challenge to the toxicity of the intruder's remarks. No longer suffocated by the opinions of others, Alex realized he was forging his own path. The weight of self-doubt might yet loom large, but it was a battle only he could wage. As he stepped back to appraise his work, a flicker of excitement coursed through him. This canvas was more than that, it was a reflection of everything he stood for. But with a newfound sense of purpose came a shadow. He sensed that this was merely one painting in a much larger collection of struggles ahead. Just then, a sudden thought crept into his mind, one that sent a tremor of anticipation cascading through him. What if the next confrontation lay not in the judgment of others but in the judgment of himself, compelling him to dig deeper and uncover the truth behind his hesitations? How many layers awaited him beneath the surface? In the weeks that followed, Alex and Maria delved deeper into their artistic exploration, weaving through layers of vulnerability and expression. Each session in the studio morphed into a sacred ritual, brushes danced and colors collided in symphonies of emotion revealing personal truths that were previously suppressed. For Alex, each stroke on his canvas began as an external confrontation but transformed into an internal dialogue, a profound dialogue that forced him to confront not only his artistic aspirations but also the very essence of who he was. As he immersed himself in this process, self-doubt gradually metamorphosed into confidence. The chaos he once feared now felt exhilarating. He learned to embrace the imperfections in his journey, understanding that true artistry lay in the authenticity of experience, not merely in execution. With each passing day, he witnessed not only the evolution of his own work but also the blossoming of Maria's creations. Her vibrant expressions encapsulated the emotional intricacies of her life, especially her relationship with Sophia. Maria took pride in sharing her stories through her art, guiding Alex with patience that spoke of her profound strength. One afternoon, they stood side by side, staring at a massive canvas that held the essence of their partnership, a chaotic whirl of colors that embodied their individual journeys converging into a single narrative. "You did this," she said softly, nodding toward his contributions. "You learned to pour your heart out onto the canvas just as I do." His reflection flickered as he beamed at her recognition. "And I owe so much of this to you, Maria. You opened this door, and I can finally see the world beyond." Validation wrapped around them like a warm embrace. In that moment, Alex had not only broken free from his own chains of uncertainty but had also recognized how to genuinely support another's voice. This realization shifted their dynamic, forging a bond deeper than mere collaboration. He had become a partner, an ally who honored her autonomy even as he asserted his own. Their newfound synergy sparked recognition beyond the confines of their studio. An art gallery in their community announced a call for emerging artists, inviting submissions for a showcase dedicated to narratives of resilience. Maria saw the opportunity before her but felt a current of anxiety surge. What if it doesn't resonate? What if they don't see the beauty in this chaos? Understanding flooded Alex's heart. "We've built something incredible here, Maria. Let us celebrate it. You deserve to share your story." With persistence, he encouraged her to submit, each word infused with recognition of how far they had both come. Submission day arrived, and as they stood against the backdrop of vibrant canvases, loaded with their shared endeavors, Alex felt a surge of pride radiate through his being. They were not just seeking validation from the world, they were reaffirming their journeys, audaciously representing their truths, unshackled from the weight of external judgment. When the acceptance email arrived weeks later, the jubilation echoed within the studio. Maria's eyes sparkled with disbelief and joy. "We did it, Alex. They see us." Amidst the celebrations, Alex found himself contemplating the evolution of this moment. The accolades, the recognition were mere reflections of a deeper achievement. He had reclaimed his connectedness to life itself, having taken leaps into realms of vulnerability that encouraged growth beyond the superficial gloss of success. During the exhibition, surrounded by attendees viewing their displayed works, a sense of calm washed over him. Maria stood beside him, her work pulsating with life, a visual testament to her indomitable spirit. In that crowd, Alex felt connected, no longer a mere spectator, he had transitioned to an active participant in life's intricate tapestry. As the night unfolded, he found himself sharing his journey, speaking not just of the art but the profound lessons learned along the way. And for the first time, he witnessed the impact of his transformation reflected in the faces of those who engaged with his story. Echoing laughter and contemplative nods filled the room. Here, in this vibrant space, he was no longer alone. Through the act of vulnerability, they had built bridges. Art, in its raw essence, had opened hearts his and others. By the time the event concluded, Alex stood taller, grounded in the realization that the true merit of his journey lay not in financial triumphs but in the transformed perspective of connection, empathy, and unwavering support for those around him. He had conquered fears that once stifled his spirit. His final metamorphosis revealed not just an awakening of artistic expression but a celebration of authenticity that restored vibrancy to every aspect of his life. Beneath the Manhattan skyline, with newfound resilience lining his soul, he took Maria's hand, knowing their bond had transcended mere collaboration. Together, they had written their own narrative of triumph amidst chaos, forever altering the course of their lives. Reflecting on this journey, Alex allowed himself the space to breathe in this moment, the culmination of relentless determination and profound connection. They had not only achieved recognition, they had accomplished something far more significant, the reclamation of self through the shared art of vulnerability. As he looked into the crowd, he felt a quiet resolve. No longer a titan of tech navigating a life devoid of meaning, Alex Reynolds had evolved into a man intertwined with profound emotions, driven by a greater purpose, to nurture, to embrace the mess of life, and to forge a path rooted in authenticity. And so, as their artwork blossomed in the eyes of the world, he knew this was just the beginning of more stories to tell, more hearts to touch, and an enduring journey toward ever-deepening connections. Now, in light of this remarkable journey, I urge you to make your contribution to personal transformation stories. You need to subscribe now to tune into more exclusive emotional experiences and insights. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like to amplify the reach of these life-changing narratives. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions about this journey. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of overcoming and authentic connection.